Women in Chicago's radio industry are speaking out about sexism they've faced. Longtime morning show host Eric Ferguson left WTMX's The Mix last month as he and the station's parent company, Hubbard Radio Chicago, face lawsuits from female colleagues. The suits allege a toxic environment for women, including coerced sexual acts and management's inadequate handling of complaints. Now, this comes as the Chicago Tribune publishes a scathing 10-month investigation into what women face in the male-dominated industry. The reporters spoke with 36 women in radio about their experiences. 3 of them join us now to talk about their experiences in Chicago radio. Julie DeCaro, writer and editor for Deadspin. She's also the author of Sidelined: Sports, Culture, and Being a Woman in America. Before that, she worked at 670 The Score. Mary Dixon, morning edition anchor at WBEZ, and before that, she was at XRT for 28 years. And Jennifer Ashrafi, former co-host of The Mix's afternoon show. She was known on air as Jennifer Roberts, and she left the industry in January 2020. Now, we also reached out to WTMX's parent company, Hubbard Radio Chicago, but they have not responded to our request. Team, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this important subject. Jennifer Ashrafi, let's start with you, please. You left your position as co-host of the afternoon show on The Mix in January 2020. What was it that made you leave?
It's hard to nail that down to 1 or 2 sentences, but I would just say the overarching theme would just be, being disgusted, frankly, with the culture and with what I was seeing happen to me for seemingly no reason, which was being, my role was being reduced and it wasn't really told why that was happening. A lot of non-communication. It seemed to me that a lot of the women there were sharing similar stories sort of behind closed doors. And my situation just wasn't improving at all. And so I decided for my mental health, my physical health, and just general well-being, that it was time to say, okay, enough is enough. And so I left.
Jennifer, as we mentioned, former morning show host Eric Ferguson and The Mix's parent company are facing lawsuits. You told the Tribune that in an exit interview, you told an executive that they had a problem with women. What did you mean by that?
I meant exactly that the women who worked in the building with me were experiencing and feeling similar ways that I was, that made me want to leave. And that specifically, I told Jeff England at my exit interview that he had a problem with women and that he might not get so lucky in the future. I was walking away just wanting a clean break and a fresh start, but he might not get so lucky with some of the other women there, meaning that they could end up where they are today, which is facing lawsuits, because I knew that what I was suffering, even by comparison, was nothing compared to what I knew what some of the other women were experiencing. And so I encouraged him to talk to people. He made it seem like he would, and nothing after that, and nothing since, to my knowledge.
Okay. Mary Dixon, you've spent nearly 3 decades in the radio industry. What has your experience been like as a woman?
Really, Brandis, I started working in this industry in 1982. I was in high school then. And from then to today, it's a lot of being the only woman in the room. It's a lot of having your voice policed, being told to pitch it more authoritatively, which is code for sound more like a dude. And it, all the way till 2017, when I was at XRT, being excluded from meetings, being excluded from broadcasts that I helped to develop. Ultimately having my pay cut when all along I was being paid less to work on a show than the guy I was working on the show with. This happens all through the commercial radio industry in particular. I also saw a lot of women who I worked with at XRT who, were brilliant sales and marketing people working, in the background that you don't hear on the radio, who were never able to work out reasonable work at home policies with their managers, because these managers, mostly men, would tell them, I can't tell you that you can work from home 1 day a week to be around your small children because, my boss would get mad about that. That kind of stuff happened all the time. Most of those women have left that company because they would rather work for a company that had better policies for women.
And Julie, we know that radio at large is male dominated, but sports radio, even more so just because of sports. What has your experience been in radio?
Yeah, similar to a lot of the other women that I've spoken with. I had a show 5 nights a week that I felt I had earned at 670 The Score. But I was never moved into a full-time role. I was always part-time. I think I was the only person who had a regular daily show that was, kept on part-time status. I got $25 an hour. And when I was hosting, I got $50 an hour. So I got $100 for my show, which was on every single night for 2 hours. While, other guys had contracts and had agents and had negotiated benefits. I didn't have any of that. And a lot of being excluded, like Mary said, not being invited to spring training when every other show went down to spring training. I was never included in that. I was never included in a lot of the big, the opening day things for all of the sports. A lot of being left out, and a lot of, like Mary said, being the only woman in the room, and a lot of just being marginalized, a lot of just being pushed to the edges, and knowing that you are not, you don't really count. You're lucky to be here. Just shut up and accept it. There was never enough money to move me into a full-time role, but there was always money to negotiate deals with all the other guys at the station. And I think that's an experience that a lot of us have had.
Mary, the Tribune's article brought up the issue of diversity by race. And as we've said, radio is, not only mostly male-dominated, mostly a white industry. How does that lack of diversity, whether it be, gender or racial or otherwise, how does that impact both the employees, but also the product that the station or the company produces?
I think it's crazy that 100 years ago, there was a decision made to separate musical genres so that white people would be steered toward buying white artist music and black artists would be sold to black artists, and radio followed that racial division. And we're still there in rock and roll radio, in country radio. That is still happening. And, XRT has never had a person of color on the air as a DJ. That seems kind of crazy in the city of Chicago. I think country music station, US 99, also has that lack of diversity. It's not just wrong, and it is wrong. It's also so boring. And it's reflected in the music that you hear on a lot of these stations where, rock and roll is presented as music that is 40, 50 years old by white guys. I mean, do you need to hear Led Zeppelin every 3 hours? I don't. Could you throw in a little Curtis Mayfield, who was from Chicago and made some of the best music ever produced in Chicago and would certainly qualify in some kind of genre adjacent to rock and roll? It's boring. It's boring radio. And I really think that the stations here could do better.
And Julie, how does being, the lone person of your identity, whatever that identity may be, sort of being the token, how does that impact the way a person, moves through the workplace and the work that person does?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it puts a target on your back, not just with the people in your office, but with the listeners. I mean, I would get harassed on the air. People would say absolutely vile things to me on the text line. Now I know that happens, across gender lines, but I did get a lot of sexually explicit threats, very sexualized, gendered threats, and people screaming things at me. And I think that when you bring in people so that you can point to how diverse you are and say, oh, well, we have a woman here talking sports. You need to be prepared to protect those people as well. You can't just leave them twisting in the wind when they get attacked. And I had, Jennifer Sturger tell me, the first one through the wall is just the bloodiest. And that's how it felt a lot of the time. There had been women on the station before me. I don't think there was ever more than one at a time. And I think that really set a tone for both to the guys that work there and for the listeners as to this is how we view women in this space.
Jennifer, back to you. What advice do you give to other people who may be in a situation similar to what you experienced before you left?
That's been one of the most, rewarding things to come out of this article going public is hearing from other people. And while it's sad, the volume of women that are approaching me in private saying, hey, I'm going through something similar too. I want to get out. How did you get out? And I'm simply saying to them, it's easier said than done, but there's momentum. Now is the time. If you can speak up and speak out, now's the time to do it. You know, there's power in numbers. There's power behind all these articles that have come out in the Chicago Tribune. I would imagine that's probably not the last ones. And so I'm just giving them the courage, if they can, to do that. And if they can't, to let them know that they can trust me. You know, if they just need to put their secrets out to somebody, that I can be that for them. And so many have taken advantage of that. And it's heartwarming, but also heartbreaking at the same time. I think it's just going to take time.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. My thanks to Jennifer Ashrafi, Mary Dixon, and Julie DeCaro for joining us. Best of luck, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandis.